I'm super excited and delighted actually to be speaking with all of you here today. Like you said, from Latin America, born and raised in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And before I tell you a little bit about myself, what we're going to be talking about in the next 30 minutes is, especially with a global company, sometimes or a lot of times they face the one size fits all challenge that I like to call. And that is when they have a global initiative or mandate and they need to deploy it everywhere. And security awareness is no exception. And Latin America is no exception either as part of a global company. The thing is, there are certain specificities about Latin America that you need to be aware when embarking on a security awareness journey. And hopefully by the end of this talk, you will have gained some insight and you will know what it takes, or at least what you need to consider. I'm just going to mention 3 things, which we will cover later, and I'll get started. I'll just say flexibility and adaptability, having a bilingual person, and creating a sense of teamwork and decision-making together. Before we delve into all of that though, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Like all of you in your lives, I wear several hats. Let's see if I can, there we go. I wear several hats. I'm, of course, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm my own person, I'm a working professional, I am a mom, I am a wife, and I'm here today speaking with you because I'm a security awareness consultant lead for Latin America. In that capacity, I am a part of a global 4-people team. We are small, but we are mighty. Quoting my manager, I have been doing security awareness for the past 6 years. Initially, though, partnering with Zurich Security Education and Awareness team, and then last year joining as a full-time security awareness employee. And I work with the 6 countries that you can see there as part of LatAm: Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, and Mexico. Now, when it comes to a global company, if you think that just because you are, you are part of a global company, you have a global program or mandate, that just because it's global, it's going to be naturally cascaded and accepted and taken in by the countries and the region, at least for Latin America, you are in for a very rude awakening. It's not that that the region is mean, but you will learn a few things about Latin America that makes this so. Now, it would be awesome if there was this one-size-fits-all challenge, if it didn't exist, and just because we have a program, we deploy it, boom, it's accepted, it's successful, fantastic. I'm sort of happy that that's not the case, because that would mean that my job would be a lot more, or a lot boring and less challenging. And I like the challenges that I have, but there's no solution, no magic solution. That's the truth. A global program, of course, is required in a global company, but it has to permit tailoring to fit the local and the regional needs. And for that, if you don't know the culture, you need an expert on the field. You need somebody who does. Of course, local support is a must. I'm not saying anything new here. Latin America will force you to think outside the box for many reasons that we will see later on. And for sure, you need to know your audience, you need to know your stakeholders, and you need to make allies. In our particular case, in fact, one of the reasons why the global security awareness program, or the regional, let's call it, security awareness program is successful, is because the global program, as part of its mandate, allows for tailoring. So it allows the countries to decide what they share and when. And that is fantastic, because it, in a way, it empowers them to say, okay, hey, this is happening in my region right now. What you shared is fantastic, but I would like to cover this other topic. And the global plan project or program that we have allows for that. And that's a huge win to have. Latin America, there's a phrase you probably heard in movies, or you probably know, which says, mi casa es su casa, or not. Let me try to go back one slide. There we go. There we go. English, ladies and gentlemen, might be the universal language, and it's a wonderful language, but it is not the mother tongue in Latin America. Latin America speaks Spanish and Portuguese. And so if you want to be effective, you have to, at the bare minimum, translate your content and that which you want to share. Regional employees might be used to working with other colleagues and to work in English, but for those employees who don't have a regional position, they're not so used to that. And let's face it, people like to read things in their own languages. Something else to take into account is idioms or dialects. Technically, 5 out of the 6 countries that I work with speak Spanish: Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, and Mexico, but it's not the same Spanish that they speak. Overall, there are, of course, it is the same language, but there are words, one same word may have different meanings, and there are things that are unique to each of the 5 countries. And those are things that you need to consider when you are crafting a message. Granted, you cannot go overboard and be overly colloquial so that only, I don't know, somebody in Argentina understands you, but the person in Ecuador is left reading and saying, what on earth are they talking about? You don't have to go super formal either, but it's a balance that you need to achieve. And that balance you can help achieve with, somebody who knows the culture. Let me give you an example. In Spanish, the word for a desktop computer that we use is, for instance, in Argentina, computadora. It's a word that ends with an A. In other parts of Latin America, they use computador, the same word spelling, but minus the A at the end. And so when we're crafting a message, we have to, consider those things, because people might or might not know that in Argentina or in Mexico, they use computadora or computador. They don't have to, we don't need to add the pressure for them to need to figure out what kind of Spanish it is that we are using. Portuguese has something similar. There are words in Portuguese that are the same as in Spanish, but they have a different meaning. Let me tell you another anecdote. One time I had traveled to Brazil. I had to both deliver a training and receive a train the trainer session. And there was a fellow trainer with me, a Brazilian guy with me. We were, I think it was the training session that we were delivering. We were at lunchtime, typing away, getting work done. The students had gone out to lunch. And at one point I turn and I say to him, I'm translating literally from what I told him. He had asked me to speak to him in Spanish so that he could practice his Portuguese. His Spanish. And I had asked him in turn to speak to me in Portuguese so that I could continue practicing. So I turn and I say, hey, Max, can I bother you for a moment, please? Translating literally from what I said in Spanish. Spanish, my mother tongue. Now, the word I use, the Spanish equivalent for bother is molestar. That is a word that exists in Brazil. When I asked my question in Spanish, Max's reaction was in the span of maybe 1 or 2 seconds. He went from to. So those 3 reactions in less than 2 seconds made me, who had just asked a question in Spanish, wonder, did I say something? Do I not know how to speak my own language? Did I ask something wrong? Max explained to me that my choice of word, that word molestar, the equivalent of bother, exists in Brazil, but it doesn't mean bother as in, may I ask you a question? It basically means harassing. So what I had asked, or what he had understood in Spanish by the choice of word was, hey, Max, can I harass you for a moment? Which was furthest from, what I had even imagined I would be saying. And I was speaking Spanish. So there you have 2 examples of things that we need to absolutely take into account when we are translating and crafting messages for our audiences. So please do not do or do not use Google Translate. Do not do or use Duolingo. Make sure you have somebody who knows the language or a very good translation services. Another thing that is unique to Latin America, and I will explain why, is a phrase that summarizes, not my authorship. I did not invent or coin this phrase, but it's basically the concept of I want you to want to wash the dishes, which really is just teamwork. Whatever global initiative you have has to show local value, because otherwise it's not going to go anywhere. It just won't fly. And if it has to be done because it's global and it comes from global, what will happen is it will be done covering the bare minimum to ensure it, the box is checked, and at the end of the day, yes, this was deployed. Latin America, though there has been progress, it is still very sexist. It's still a very sort of macho culture, and they have a very, you don't come tell me what to do demeanor in some cases. So that's why it's so important and so critical that A, they see the local value for whatever it is that you're offering, and B, they feel it's teamwork versus region or global coming and telling them what to do. Because if they feel the latter, they're not going to do anything. I'm not saying anything new up next, but information security colleagues are your friends. Communications people or personnel are your friend. Even if sometimes they are elusive in allowing you to create that friendship or establish that rapport, keep trying. You know you need them. They know you need them, but still keep trying. You'll get there in the end. You have to answer, what's in it for me? When you speak with them, when you present what you want to do, what's in it for me? That's what you have to answer for them. And I'm going to leave this bullet point for last in a moment, because when you're working with Latin America, strategize with the BISOs, get to know their local needs and tailor those needs to your global plan so that you ensure you are aligned, but also you ensure you meet or you help meet the country's local needs, even if you end up with 5, 6, 7 different security awareness actions or security awareness plans. BISOs, communications personnel, they're all busy people. So while you are strategizing, find out what works best for them. I always say, be part of the solution. Don't just bring them the problem, or the problem being, the initiative that you want to do. So being part of the solution can be, for instance, when you sit at the table with communications, present them with, whatever maybe digital collateral you may have produced, whatever content and topics you have decided, because that will make their job easier in helping you, because it's going to be much easier for them to review a text. Communications will take care of the means of the channel, it's their job, but it will be much easier for them if you come to the table with, okay, so, this is what we want to do, here's the content, and for them to just tweak and edit and, move things around, versus you coming to the table and saying, we want to do this, we want to focus on, say, phishing or malware. How can we do it? What can we write about? And maybe give communications 3, 4 ideas, and they themselves have to come up with a text. In a way, it's help them help you, because ultimately you want to ensure the message gets across, tailored to the local need, but help them, help make their lives easier. I'm not saying spoon feed them the solution, but help them help you in getting the message across. And back to, or sort of going now to the last bullet point, know who makes things happen. We spoke about local support, and that is important. But in Latin America, sometimes it may happen that the person who can help you make things happen is not necessarily the highest one in the chain of command. Of course, you need local sponsorship, local support, but sometimes those two don't go hand in hand. Let me give you an example. Last year, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, Latin America, Argentina specifically, we had a beautiful plan set up and crafted, and we were almost ready to basically to kick everything off. We had communications on board, our CIO was on board, everybody was on board. And yet there was some kind of hurdle we couldn't overcome. We just couldn't get everything started. We were reached out by the risk area in Argentina. Our team, Zurich Security Education Awareness Team, was contacted by the risk area in Argentina because they wanted to do a campaign to highlight XYZ topics. The moment we found out, went to the risk manager's office, we sat down, we compared notes, we said, okay, I need to do this, you need to do that, how can we help each other? Boom. He went and spoke, to communications, the hurdle was gone. And again, we had support from everyone, and yet we couldn't get things in this particular case done. So we found out this was a person who made things happen. We made things happen, so we partnered with him, and there we had fantastic actions, both areas super successful, everybody happy, fantastic. So if you have those kinds of people, identify them and make allies of them. Also, something that's very useful, visit the countries that you work with, which of course has gone out the window this year with COVID-19, but there are video conferences. Help them put a face to your name. Get to know them, let them get to know you, because that, I don't want to say that it creates an emotional attachment, but in a way it does create some sort of rapport and nexus, if you will. And when they know you, they know how you speak, how you think, how you work, how you help them, and vice versa. Sometimes it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to say no to certain things if they have to, because you're not just a name in an email address that they get ever so often in their inbox. So take that care and take that time to get to know them. We mentioned several variables in Latin America. At the beginning, I mentioned there was a component of flexibility involved. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, lateral thinking much, or the art of being flexible? Latin America is a region that will force you to be flexible if you are not, whether it's because you have to work with Latin America or you come and physically move to Latin America to work. Latin Americans are very hardworking, they are very resourceful, but they are also very social, and they take pride in their personal time. Oddly enough, though, working from home is something that has not taken hold just yet. Don't be fooled, because now we're all working remotely. That's just COVID forcing the situation, and hopefully letting or allowing this to prove that working from home can actually happen, and you don't need to be at the office, to be working, because if you're home, you're just watching television. In the workplace, back in the day when we could go to the office, having lunch with colleagues, solving some work matter over a coffee break, maybe in the morning when you powered up your computer, or you had breakfast or whatever, those are important things for Latin Americans, and they are things that you need to factor in when you're embarking on a security awareness journey. At this point, you may be wondering, because not to mention, Latin America, if you've ever read a news about the region, is not the most politically stable region in the world. So you need to have some wiggling room for any political unrest that may affect you or your employees, for that matter. A few years back, for example, one of the BUs decided to cut short the hours that their employees work because there were a lot of protests happening. So to help keep them safe, they cut the hours short, then people got to their houses and continued working. In Buenos Aires, in the city of Buenos Aires, I kid you not, before COVID-19, there was a strike or a protest every single day. And so getting to the city of Buenos Aires was doable, but it was a nightmare. So you had to be very zen about it and say, okay, I'm going to get my book. If you had to commute, okay, I'll bring my book. I'll listen to something, music, whatever. So you have to contemplate that too. You have to have flexibility to do that. Meetings. We can schedule meetings at the top of the hour, at the bottom of the hour, and more often than not, that top or bottom of the hour might just end up being more of a guideline than a set time, because we like to chit chat. We tend to beat around the bush. We don't go straight to the point. So there's going to be the, hey, how, if the meeting's on Monday, hey, how was your weekend? What did you do? Oh, football. And, ooh, did you watch the football match and this and that? So it's going to happen every single time. When people have to work maybe with other colleagues from other geographies, we try to tone that down and adhere to whatever time we've set. But if it's amongst regional people, it will happen. Even from, the CEO down, there's going to be chit chat right before the meeting starts. And at this point, you may be wondering, okay, so hold on. You're saying Latin Americans are hardworking, they are resourceful, but they value their private time. They are very social. They chit chat. They have lunch. I did not even get into the public holidays. And almost a ridiculous amount of public holidays. Argentina alone this year had 19. That is close to 1 month of public holidays. And yet things get done. So how do things get done in the country? Well, various reasons. The country sees the value for them in what you are offering. The country knows, or the countries know, that it's a team effort versus a global mandate. There's a lot of creativity in getting things done, because I haven't even discussed budget yet, and we don't always have it. More often than not, we don't. So there's a lot of creativity involved. There's the right push from the right people, and there's also a component of luck. But luck is everywhere, in any endeavor we try to do. But things do get done taking all these factors into account. Now, when everything finally works beautifully, when you have forged the relationship and everything just flows, you get things like what you see here on screen. This was for our 2019 Cybersecurity Awareness Month. In the 6 years that I've been doing security awareness, it was the first and thus far only year that we had regional and local budget for initiatives. I can honestly say I was like a child in a candy store when I found out at the beginning of last year. So what I said, what we did is I went to my boss and I said, I want to visit the countries that are performing the worst in our phishing campaigns, and or the countries that are the more reluctant, let's say, to come aboard. We chose, or those countries ended up being Ecuador, Mexico, and Colombia. Couldn't get to Colombia because life happened. We helped plan. The countries led the planning, in that I was not telling them what to do based on the global strategy. We were aligning the global strategy with what each country was seeing and needing to address, whichever behavior or risk factor they were seeing. So we planned for October. I went there in October, and hands-on, I worked with them. I helped plan. I helped do some activities. I gave some talks. I was involved fully. Argentina is what I talked about in terms of the joint venture with Risk. And that was fantastic. Today, 2020 Cybersecurity Awareness Month in October, a lot of participation. And Mexico and Ecuador are, I dare say, two of our most engaged allies in Latin America. And it's, building the relationship. It's something that we constantly work on. It's not that, okay, so I met the BISO, I met comms, now I can, sit on my laurels and rest on my laurels and everything's going to flow. No, you have to keep working at it day in and day out. But we can do wonderful things. And yes, I am taking a bit of a moment here for some bragging rights, because things are working very, very well. The countries are engaged. We have a good, team working relationship. And it's good when that happens. On the one hand, it's not something that's going to happen, overnight, as you all well know, but it can happen. And when it does, it's rewarding. We still have our challenges, but things are, working much, much better. And all this considering that specifically for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, as you saw maybe in the previous slide, and as you can see here, we, of course, design digital collateral, we provide content, we theme the weeks, everything. But what's fantastic is when the countries are engaged enough that they themselves come up with their own content. As you can see here in Mexico, with that haunted house that they did, where you had to detect, for example, a credit card, or all elements that they wanted to address. Or Ecuador there to the right of the Securing Zurich Together logo. It's fantastic when they engage like that, because it's when that I want you to want to wash the dishes concept sort of comes to life. With this, and we have covered a lot of things. Latin America has many wonderful things, but it does have things that you need to take into account. And as takeaways, so as not to get you dizzy with maybe a lot of information, let me give you 5 key concepts, if you will, or takeaways that will help you be successful. First of all, one size does not fit all. So please ensure you adapt whatever global program you have, whether it's a single action, a campaign, or an entire program, to fit the region and the country's local needs. Translate, translate, translate. People want to read stuff in their own languages. Build partnerships. Again, no brainer, if you will. We all know this. Strengthen your connections. Get to know them. Help them get to know you. This will help you. It won't make them accept every single thing you say, but it will help you get a higher reception, and it will make your life easier when you need to implement something. Strategize together. Remember, they don't like you're coming and telling me what to do. So strategize together, make it a group decision, ensuring always alignment with your global mandate, because we are still one company, so we cannot go rogue and do whatever we want. But strategize together, adapt the global plan to fit the local needs. Have someone on the field based in the region who speaks its languages and who knows the culture and can give you insight, from helping you craft a message to saying, yes, that's good, but it won't work here with the people in LatAm. That's not really the kind of humor or content or whatever that they like. And last but not least, be flexible and adapt. You will have to think outside the box. I've seen it with across my, in my experience, and not just with security awareness, but foreigners who have come to work in Latin America. And one of the first big shocks that they get is, for instance, some of the things that I mentioned about meetings not starting right on the scheduled time, how social we are. Let's go have something to drink after work, back when we could. Hopefully we will soon enough, but be flexible and adapt. Latin America has a lot of variables, from the political unrest that we have. Nothing we can do about that, to the other things that we mentioned. But if you keep these sort of 5 ideas in mind, it will help you at least start to drive your security awareness in Latin America, and it will help you towards being successful in doing so. And with that, I thank you very much for joining me. I'll be happy to take any questions now if we have. I think we may have a few minutes here, or if not, in the hallway. But thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm all ears, or I'll meet you in the hallway.